Welcome, Delhi and Santa Ana Memorial Park residents. Thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your evening with us. This is the second meeting in a series of meetings that we are conducting between now and May. These meetings are being conducted to get your input and feedback about issues impacting the environment, as well as the quality of life in your neighborhood, as well as various other neighborhoods throughout the city. Your participation with us tonight will assist staff in finalizing the general plan update, which will be considered by the City Council later this year. We are joined tonight by our mayor, Mayor Sarmiento, who will be sharing information about the American Rescue Plan at the beginning of this meeting. After his presentation, we will have about 10 minutes for you to provide input and discuss with the mayor. We will also have a slide at the end of his presentation that will provide you with information on how to provide additional comments if you weren't able to share with us today via the internet or via phone call. I see in the audience we also have Council Member Phil Becerra representing the Ward number 4. We'll give him a quick chance to say hi after my introduction. Before we begin our program, I'd like to take a minute to introduce our other staff members. I have Senior Planner Melanie Mccann. I'm sorry, she just got promoted to Principal Planner, Melanie Mccann, and she's also the Project Manager for the General Plan Update. I have Margarita Macedonio, she is our Senior Planner. Alyssa Ventura, she's Assistant Planner, and she's facilitating the meeting tonight. Before I introduce the mayor, I'd like to have Alyssa go over for folks that are speaking Spanish or Vietnamese speakers on how to participate in the meeting tonight. So, Alyssa, please assist.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. So we do have Spanish and Vietnamese interpretation available. So in order to access that, you will need to click on the interpretation feature, which is the little globe that's under the one. And then once you click on that, you will be able to select the language that you would want to listen this presentation in. So either Vietnamese or Spanish. And if you need any help with accessing that, please type it in the chat. That way we can help you, try to listen to this presentation in your preferred language. And we also have our interpreters, Nilda and Tu, who will go over the instructions in Spanish and Vietnamese. Nilda, if you could go ahead.
Gracias, Alisa. Tenemos interpretación al español y verán en donde dice Interpretation, es un globito donde le pueden acceder allí y le escogen el idioma español y también para que escuchen toda la presentación en el idioma español. Gracias.
Thank you, Nilda. Tu, if you can go ahead and say the instructions in Vietnamese, please.
Yes. Dạ, kính chào quý vị. Bây giờ là chúng tôi bắt đầu cái cuộc họp, và nếu quý vị muốn nghe tiếng Việt, thông dịch tiếng Việt, thì quý vị nhấn vào có cái hình quả địa cầu á, nó có cái chữ là interpretation á, nó ở cuối cùng bên tay phải ở phía dưới của cái màn ảnh, thì quý vị nhấn vào trong đó cái quả hình cầu thì nó sẽ ra là Spanish hoặc là Vietnamese, thì quý vị nhấn vào chỗ Vietnamese tức là tiếng Việt, thì quý vị sẽ nghe tôi thông dịch. Yes.
Thank you so much, Tu. And also, if you would like to see this presentation in your preferred language, Ricardo did post in the chat. You can see the PowerPoint either in English, Spanish, or Vietnamese. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. I also see that we have Councilmember Jesse Lopez join us as well. Maybe after the mayor provide introduction, maybe you can say a quick hello as well. And then we have Daisy Perez from our city manager's office. At this time, I'd like to introduce our mayor.
Great, thank you. Thank you, man. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Good afternoon to everybody. Buenas tardes, Kim Cha Quy to everybody. That's about as extensive as my Vietnamese goes, but I'm working on it. So, but I wanted to thank the staff, especially the planning department staff, for allowing me and council members to visit with you just for a few minutes and drop in and talk to you, not just about the environmental justice discussion, which is very important, but we just wanted to cut in just for a few minutes and talk to you about the American Rescue Plan and the city of Santa Ana's portion that it's expecting to receive very soon. It's part of the federal stimulus package that many cities and counties are receiving throughout the country to help us build back better. But the way I see it, we're going to build back better, and we want to build back different. So the city's expected to receive about $143 million, and we want to make sure that we do it with everybody's input and with everybody's opinion and comment. And that's what I'm trying to do, is go to different neighborhood association meetings. I think we were at one last week, and I'll be at Windsor Village next week as well. But also talking to some of the community organizations that can give some input. So in essence, we just want to hear from you. And this is going to be just a short moment of time to kind of introduce the topic. But at the end of these few slides that are going to come before you from me, there'll be a slide at the end where you're able to give us your opinion either through a text, through an email, different ways for you to let us know what's important, what you prioritize. And so if we can go to the next slide, it'll kind of tell you what the very broad guidelines are for these monies and how they should be spent. We haven't received any of the specific guidance from the federal government on exactly how, but in general, it's basically for COVID relief assistance. Basically a lot of people who've had their businesses impacted, they've been impacted through inability to pay rent. Those are some of the easy sort of connections, but there are other things, right, that also were impacted by the pandemic. And one of them is some of our delivery of services that we provide. And obviously a lot of our employees that we had to furlough and not have us not be with the city during this time because of the reduced delivery of service that we had. And finally, there's some express language having to do with infrastructure, improvements to water, sewer, and broadband. So those are very broad and high level. So more than anything, I just wanted to basically let you know that what we want to do is use these funds in a way that we can provide programs to assist you all, having to do with public health and safety, infrastructure, and improving our fiscal health. And it's not often that a city will receive this amount of money. We were very fortunate and blessed. We had a lot of advocacy that was going on for these monies. But the important thing is that we want to listen. And I'm sure that Councilwoman Lopez, Councilman Becerra, who are on the line with us, want to hear from you just to get thoughts from all of you. I had some very good comments at the last neighborhood association meeting. You know, we could really do a lot of exciting things to transform the way we do government, the way to bring in hope and kind of inspire all of us after this year of really, really difficult and challenging times for our residents, for our children, for our businesses. So I'm very optimistic about 2021 as we go through this and we start seeing things like, Santa Ana Unified just announced that the kids are going back this summer. Businesses are now opening up in the orange tier, which is the less restrictive tier. And we're going to continue to improve as we deliver more vaccines. So, again, this is an exciting time. We want to make these decisions together. We don't want to do this without you, the public. So thank you for allowing us to listen to you. So let me turn it back over to staff and have them maybe call on a few people who might have some comments to share with us. And on this screen here, these are 3 ways that you can contact us and share your ideas in the event that this was sprung on you. I know I'm kind of parachuting in to your meeting, but you may have some good thoughts afterwards and say, boy, I thought about something and I want to include it. Well, here are 3 ways through the website, through an email, and through text messaging that you can receive us, and we'll make sure to include those comments and those opinions in our decision making. But with that, let me turn it back over to see if there's anybody that has anything to offer at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, we have time for a few questions and some input. I don't see anybody raising their hand. Alyssa or Margarita, do you have anyone?
Not at the moment, and I don't see any questions in the chat or the Q&A.
Maybe what we
Thank
can
you.
do, Director Ty, as well, maybe, we get some folks who are thinking about this. Maybe we can turn it over to the council members for a couple of quick comments.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Becerra and Councilmember Lopez, thank you for joining us tonight. If you'd like to say a quick hello, Councilmember Becerra and then Councilmember Lopez.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I want to thank our staff for putting this meeting together. This is very important, and I appreciate what staff has done to kind of extend this timeline so that we can really capture a lot of input on an issue that's so important, that's impacting so much of our city. And this is an opportunity that there's so many. In fact, I think the last council meeting the mayor mentioned, we have so many almost like once in a generation decisions that are coming before the council in one calendar year. And this is one of them, which is the general plan update. And so the environmental justice aspect of it is something that we really, I really appreciate that staff has taken this extra time to really gather this input. And I thank the mayor for chiming in and introducing what the council wants, which is to get input on this once in a generation investment that the federal government will be providing our city. Talking about build back better, hopefully we'll also build back stronger. We're a 150-year-old plus city that has some old pipes, some old infrastructure that we need to update. And we also have a huge significant impact due to COVID that we need to help our neediest residents. So hopefully with these resources and your input, we'll be able to really do something wonderful and transformative with this. So Min, thank you. And Melanie, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you, Councilmember Becerra.
Turn that back to you, Director Ty.
Thank you, Councilmember Becerra. Councilmember Lopez, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Director Ty and Mayor Sarmiento. Hi, everyone. Buenas tardes. Thank you for allowing me to be in your space today in your meeting. And as these conversations continue to happen in terms of the general plan, how we can build back better, and the issues around environmental justice, please know that we're here to help you, that I'll be dropping my contact information in the chat. And I just want to thank the Delhi Center for all of the work that they've done in our community for so many years now. Y muchas gracias a todos por darme la oportunidad de estar aquí en su junta. Si necesitan alguna cosa, por favor, sepan que se pueden comunicar con nosotros y voy a dejar mi información en el chat. Y muchas gracias y que tengan una
Did we lose Councilmember Lopez?
I think she was just signing off. So
Thank you.
if there's nothing in the, is there anybody with their hand raised or anybody in the chat that wishes to speak?
Hi, Mayor. No, it does not look like anyone has their hand raised. For those of you that have any input or would like to provide any input to the mayor and the council members, please raise your hand, or if you want to ask a question in the chat, you can also do that. But it looks like there's nothing yet.
Man,
Can you
I
forward any input that we received to you, Mayor?
Perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. So look, I think I'm going to sign off just because I know that you have a really, really important topic to cover, which is environmental justice, as was mentioned earlier. I just want to thank all the residents at at Delhi and Memorial Park. I know that the whole question of the EJ really does impact both of your neighborhoods, as they do many in the city, and it's a very profound and important topic. So I appreciate you taking your evening and taking some time to provide your feedback and let us know what your concerns are as we go through this. Once again, I just want to thank you, and like I said, to introduce this topic. So please continue to keep in contact with our staff, continue to keep in contact with those of us on the council to let us know what your thoughts and your concerns are. We just want to make sure we share these opportunities with you and make sure that we continue to engage with you. So, we appreciate your time and your attention on this. Gracias a todos, que pasen buena noche. Aquí nomás queríamos comunicarnos con ustedes para que y decirles lo que está pasando acerca de estos fondos que estamos recibiendo del gobierno federal, y vamos a esperar escuchar de ustedes las recomendaciones y sugerencias que tengan acerca de cómo podemos disponer de estos fondos. Es bastante dinero y lo queremos hacer en una manera justa, pareja y con la opinión y apoyo de todo el público de Santana. So with that, Director Ty, I'll go ahead and let you get back to your meeting. I hope that everybody will have a chance to look at this and provide some input, and I appreciate the time, and I'll let you all get on with the meeting at hand.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you joining us tonight. And I really appreciate Councilmember Becerra and Councilmember Lopez saying a few words to our audience. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce our, as I mentioned earlier, our project planner and principal planner, Melanie Mccann, for a presentation on tonight's topic. Melanie?
Thank you, Min. We're going to have Alyssa just give some quick reminders on some ways to participate in the meeting, and then I'll jump right in. Alyssa?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. For those of you in attendance, there are a couple of ways for you to participate during tonight's meeting. If you can raise your hand, if you'd want to ask a question, or if you want our attention, you can use that function, or you can also ask a question in the Q&A box. So we will be monitoring both of those throughout the meeting, and then we'll have some time for you to ask your questions. And then those of you that are dialing in, I don't think I've seen anyone yet, but if you are on your phone just dialing in, not using the Zoom chat, if you want to raise your hand, dial *9, and then you will dial *6 to unmute yourself once we call on you. Thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa. And thank you, Min, for the introduction. So tonight, we're going to give just a little bit of a background, because tonight's intention is really to leave time to listen to the community. But we want to give a little bit of a foundation so we're all on the same level of understanding. So we're going to be answering the question, what is environmental justice? We're going to touch on the Santa Ana General Plan update, what that is, clarify what constitutes an EJ neighborhood or an environmental justice neighborhood. And then again, really the main focus here is the community discussion and listening to the community and what your thoughts and experiences are. So again, for starters, what is environmental justice? So some communities throughout California, throughout the nation, bear an extra amount of burden of pollution and health risks. And environmental justice, in general terms, seeks to correct this imbalance and create opportunities for everyone to have a healthy and successful life. So our general plan is an opportunity to make some policy and action and program changes to improve environmental justice considerations. So the general plan is a long-term document that guides not only the physical development, but the overall quality of life, economic health, and the long-term sustainability of our community. The graphics, the pictures you see below represent the different elements or topics within our general plan. There's 11 down here. And then at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see 5 words, and those are the values that surfaced through our prior outreach as the guiding principles and the underlying values of our community. So the theme of culture came up, sustainability, health, education, and equity. So in each of these general plan elements that you see expressed by these pictures, those 5 principles or values are integrated in each of those. And so an example of some of these elements, they go from urban design to public services, to open space, to safety, to land use, a whole variety of different topics that are all part of creating a quality community. So then when we do update our general plan comprehensively, there is a new act that was put into account in 2016, and it's also referred to as SB 1000. And it requires that cities take the opportunity when they update their policies to focus on the disadvantaged communities to three things in particular: reduce any compounded health risks. We'll talk about that a little more. Promote community and civic engagement, civil engagement in the public decision-making process, and that there'll be priorities for improvements in programs in those particular areas. So what constitutes a disadvantaged or environmental justice community? In general terms, it's a combination of certain areas that have a high risk of exposure to pollution, be that air pollution, water, or soil, and that in addition, these residents carry an extra burden of socioeconomic and health issues, which we'll talk about a little bit more. In addition, they're typically located near freeways, major roads, or potentially industrial uses. What you see before you are the different characteristics that constitute an environmental justice community. There's a particular model that looks at these 20 different indicators. On the upper left, you'll see the pollution characteristics, and to the upper right are the population characteristics. So for instance, under the population characteristics, the environmental justice communities might have a lower educational attainment level, or they might have a higher housing burden and have to expend more than 30 or 50% of their income for housing costs. And they might have higher unemployment challenges. On the left side of the screen, for pollution exposure, it could be anything from pollution from diesel particulate matter or from release of toxic things from adjacent industrial uses or underground water that's been contaminated. So this particular tool looks at all those different characteristics by census tract. So the little lines that you see are all census tracts. And those that rate the highest with those particular burdens are considered environmental justice communities. So in Santa Ana, those that are ranked between 75 or 100% score, they would be the environmental justice communities. And so you can see the darker orange are where our environmental justice communities are. This is another picture to make it a little clearer in Santa Ana. So the pink areas, again, they're by census tract. So those are all our areas that are designated by this particular model to be environmental justice communities. And the characteristics that seem to be most of a challenge in our community relate to these on the left that you see. Air quality, linguistic isolation, groundwater contamination, poverty, education are some of those samples. So tonight we're going to take a look at two different neighborhoods, and we're actually going to have a few polling questions, and team will go ahead and integrate some of the other ones along the way if we can. But this particular poll has to do with clarifying if you are in fact in an environmental justice area. So for those of you in the Delhi neighborhood, the entire Delhi neighborhood is in pink. So the whole neighborhood is within an environmental justice area. For Santa Ana Memorial Park, the neighborhood boundary is in yellow, but only the east side of it, if you will, between Flower and Main Street are in an environmental justice neighborhood. So before we take the poll on where you actually live, we're going to just do a practice poll, and that will be asking how you heard about tonight's meeting. So Alyssa, can you help us to start that out?
Yes.
And then our associate planner, key part of our general plan team, Ricardo Soto, is going to walk us through the poll. Thanks, Ricardo.
Sure, no problem. So like Melanie was saying, a couple of polls tonight. The first one, how did you find out about tonight's meeting? So was a meeting flyer mailed to you? Was it a yard sign? Did you receive an email, or was it through a next door message or Facebook or Instagram? Did a friend or a neighbor let you know about it? Or was it an announcement from your church or local organization or some other form? So we'll just give folks a few more minutes a few more seconds to answer, and then we'll see what the results are. All right, so a couple more seconds. Looks like
Leveled out.
that's about it. Alyssa, do you want to end the poll there?
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like most of the folks found out through some other form. So thanks for responding to that poll. That helps us moving forward and refining what tools we use to engage with the community and what's of value. So we put more effort toward that and trying to draw in as many folks to participate in these meetings as possible.
And I think we mentioned that one of the others might be a tool that we use this time, which was sending out text messages. So that could be where some of the others come from. Thanks, Ricardo. Why don't we go ahead with the other warm-up question, which is regarding the general plan and EJ.
Okay.
All right, so a couple of yes, no questions. The first, just so that we know where folks are as far as EJ and environmental justice, their understanding of it, and if they've experienced any environmental justice in their neighborhoods. So you would just answer yes, no. And the second question, have you heard of the city's general plan? It's been a multi-years long effort. So just so we know where folks are coming in and joining us in the conversation. So that way, moving forward, we know what background they have as far as where the plan has come and gone and what the next steps are moving forward. So we have about 12 folks that responded so far. The last, I think we got a little bit more than that. So we'll just give people a couple more seconds to finish. All right, Alyssa, do we want to close the poll there?
Okay.
All right, so it looks like most folks answered yes to question number 1 and also yes to question number 2.
Thanks, Ricardo. So it looks like, well, the majority, if you will, said yes. There's some new people at the table, so we really are glad you're here. And we hope you continue to stay involved in the conversation and learn more about environmental justice and the general plan. So with that, we'll go to the question related to where you live as it relates to these two environmental justice areas. Ricardo?
Sure, like Melanie was going over for the Delhi neighborhood, and I think the poll actually should say Delhi and Santa Ana Memorial Park. But if you reside in Delhi, you're going to be answering yes that you reside within the EJ area of Delhi. Then if you reside in the Santa Ana Memorial Park, there's 2 options. So if you live on the western side, you would not be within an EJ area, but you would be within the neighborhood boundary. If you reside on the east side, which is that pink color, then you would respond that you're in Santa Ana Memorial Park within the EJ boundary. Or if you just are joining us and live in another part of the city, just go ahead and respond not in the city, or sorry, other Santa Ana neighborhood. And if you don't reside in Santa Ana, then not in the city of Santa Ana.
Ricardo, there's some comments on the chat. Just noticed.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just, I think you just clarified. So Ricardo, you're saying the first one, the first
yes, I'm getting
option.
some, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm getting some questions about the options. So it looks like the options have the incorrect neighborhood names on them. So for the first, it should read, instead of Artesia Pilar, it should say Delhi. And then the second option should say EJ area in Delhi, which if you reside in Delhi, you should be selecting that one because the entire Delhi neighborhood is within an EJ boundary. And then the following one that says Flower Park should read Santa Ana Memorial Park, followed by EJ area in Santa Ana Memorial Park. So like I was mentioning, if you reside within that gold boundary, you're within Santa Ana Memorial Park. If you're within that pink area, then you would respond EJ area in Santa Ana Memorial Park. And if you don't live in either of those 2 neighborhoods, Delhi or Santa Ana Memorial Park, then you would respond, if you live in Santa Ana, other Santa Ana neighborhood. Then if you don't reside in the city at all, you'd respond not in the city of Santa Ana. So it looks like we have the same number of respondents, Alyssa, that we have for the prior poll questions. So do we want to close that out?
Yes, and here are the results. Yeah, sorry guys for the confusion. Did not get to update the answers for that.
And yeah, sorry about that. It's going to throw
Work in progress.
the answers off a bit. So that's probably why we're getting other Santa Ana neighborhood. But if there's a way, I'm not sure if there is a way to retake this poll, Alyssa. If not,
Yeah, we can do it towards the end. I can.
sure.
change it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the point of the poll was just to kind of help you zoom in and clarify where you are in the neighborhood. So we'll pull that survey poll down then, Lisa.
Yeah, should be down.
Okay, great, that is fine. All right, so then thank you for your patience on that. So as we mentioned before, the city's considering changes to our goals, policies, and actions in the general plan that have the opportunity to improve conditions in Santa Ana, particularly focusing on the areas of greatest need. So from that, we're going to take one really quick poll because this is going to lead us into just having an open discussion. And this is, in general, what are your priorities for your neighborhood? Can you walk us through that, Ricardo?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
What are your top 3 priorities that the city can focus on to help improve the health of your neighborhoods? So first, air or water pollution, roads, street lights, and other public facilities, access to healthy food, housing and affordable rent, parks and recreation centers to promote physical activity, ability to influence city policies and programs, quality education. All right, so we'll just give folks a few more seconds.
A little bit more to read on this one. Great.
All right, Alyssa, do you want to close that out? All right, so it looks like we got the highest one was 53% air or water pollution, followed by parks and recreation centers to promote physical activity with 47% and quality education with 40%. And also it looks like housing and affordable rent also at 47%. So that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So hopefully that provided a little bit of a foundation. And from at this point, well, let me back up a bit. Margarita will give some specifics, but we wanted to definitely take a moment to thank the neighborhood leaders and the different organizations that helped try and get the word out about today's meeting and to give out additional flyers and surveys and that sort of thing. So once again, we want to really thank the team approach to helping make this successful. I'll introduce, most of you know Margarita Macedonia, and she'll basically help facilitate the discussion on your priorities, your experiences, and your thoughts. Margarita? You're on mute, Margarita.
Thank you to the team. I just wanted to acknowledge Vivian Martinez, Erika Gonzalez from the Delhi neighborhood, Patricia Gonzalez from the Delhi Center, Jenny Rios, the CEO at the Delhi Center, who invited her staff as well to connect, and also from Santa Ana Memorial Park, Raul Ramos Jr., and Pastor Durley from Brown Temple. Thank you for helping to get the word out. So this is probably the more important part of today's meeting, where this is the listening part. And so thank you for sharing your priorities. This ties well into the priorities that have been identified as part of the environmental justice component for the city's general plan. And we want to hear from you. What are the experiences from those who are on the call in terms of all of these number of items? So we just wanted to start off and really get a sense of what the experience is for neighbors in Delhi and Santa Ana Memorial Park, and in the vicinity, really, when it comes to air pollution, access to parks, your public facilities, affordable, healthy, quality food, housing, civic engagement. So I know that Alyssa, my colleague Alyssa, had shared how to participate. So at this point, people are welcome to share their thoughts over the chat if you want to raise your hand, or we can call on you too, so you can elaborate. So let's start that.
So anyone has their hand up?
Let's see, I see, I'm gonna call on Raul Ramos. Mr. Ramos, can you hear us? If you can unmute yourself. Oh, he can hear, but he doesn't have a microphone. Okay, let's try Pastor Durley. And Raul, as we connect with Pastor Durley, you're welcome to share your thoughts, your experiences over the chat if you'd like. I know it's not the same as if you were connecting, so. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead, Pastor Durley.
Hey, good evening. Good evening. First of all, thank you for including me into this neighborhood. As with Brown Temple, we're looking at trying to do what we can and trying to help the community as we look for air, for better air quality, even the roads and all of the things that allows us to gain access to where we need to go. And thank you so much for being a part of this. So any information that we can provide for this body, then please let us know. I know Richard has said that the church, there was not any, excuse me, there were not any who at on the poll that said they got information from the church, but please don't exclude Brown Temple from moving forward. If there's any other things that we can do so we can make sure that we can do our part to be a viable part in this community. So thank you. Sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Pastor Durley.
Sure.
Much appreciated. Okay, we have Andres Guillen who's raised their hand. Go ahead, Andres.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for giving us this platform to be able to express some suggestions regarding this project. I live on South Parton Street, which is in between Flower and Main Street. And I've been living here for about 3 years. And I've noticed that during peak hours of traffic, our street tends to get overcrowded with cars because they're trying to avoid using the main streets like Flower, the large roadways like Flower and Main. And since we're on the topic of reducing exposure to pollution, I've noticed that was a big concern for most of the at least in our street, it seems like drivers are using our street as a main roadway to get to whatever their destination is. And we have kids here on our block, and it's not safe for the kids. And it's also obviously increasing the air pollution in our area more than it already is. As you guys noticed from the map, we live in an area where it's highly, highly polluted. I understand that, that's probably in the big scheme of things, traffic pollution and air pollution is going to be difficult to eliminate just because of where we live and how overcrowded our city is. But at least in our neighborhood, if we can make that improvement, I'm sure our residents would appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Andres. Ricardo.
Yeah, we have a comment from Wolf stating what their top 3 concerns are. The first was homeless situation, followed by number 2, public parking, and number 3, too much construction that is not being well managed, too much at one time.
Wolf, did you want to elaborate on the construction?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, everybody. This is the first time that I've actually entered and tried to participate in a community event like this, so thank you so much. The reason that I am trying to reach out is because I don't live in the two communities that you've outlined for this evening, but I do live in the Artesia Pilar community, and currently the situation that we're living right now is it's a bit stressful, if you will. We've been undergoing the OCTA Streetcar Project now going on 9 months. In April, which was supposed to be a project that was supposed to be about 3 months on my side of the street. And, you know, around my neighborhood as well, there are other projects that are taking place at the same time. Needless to say, as I drive around the city, you know, it's just unfortunate to see. It's exciting to see all the, you know, the budgets that are being approved to beautify our city and to bring other resources into our communities. But at the same time, I just feel that there should be some sort of a governance around how much we allow in construction in one specific area. I mean, to get to my neighborhood right now, we pretty much have to go through a maze every evening. And it's like that for many of the neighbors around us. So just wanted to elaborate on that.
Okay, thank you for elaborating on that. Well, thank you. Is there anything, Ricardo, else on the chat?
Yeah, actually, one of the participants, Carla, shared the link to the environmental justice survey that's also part of this latest effort. So for those that have access to the web, we have an environmental justice survey that you can access from the general plan webpage or directly from the link that Carla provided. Additionally, for those that may not have access regularly to the internet and would like a hard copy of the survey, those are also available. So just send me a message through the chat and we can make sure to get one over to you and let you know how to submit that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Ricardo. Before we move forward, I just want to take a quick moment to share with Wolf that the Streetcar Project and all the construction that's going on, it's being completed by the County of Orange Transit Authority. And if you can leave me and our team with your contact information, I will reach out to our Public Works Department, who is working and coordinating with the OCTA on construction activity, and maybe they can answer some of your questions in a little bit more detail, as well as provide you with some scheduling information. So, Wolf, if you don't mind sharing us your contact information and leave with Margarita, and we will have someone get back out to you. And I want to introduce late, but Mr. Ricardo Soto. Sorry I missed you earlier, but thank you for completing the survey.
And Wolf as well, if you'd like to, we'll provide our phone number at the end if you'd like to call us versus leaving any information in the chat, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And Margarita, if there aren't any other hands up, we have a message in the chat from Carla that I'd like to read in, if that's possible.
Go ahead.
So Carla wrote, my biggest concern is making sure everyone in the community is aware of the extent of our environmental injustices. Air pollution, diesel exhaust, pesticides, etc., is not always visible to us, but cause long-term effects for us. I read the general plan update for more details, but that 100-page plus document is not accessible to our community. We're talking about reducing pollution and improving housing, but every other month, people still continue to spray pesticides through my entire area in Delhi. This has been going on for over a year, ever since many homes were demolished for the Warner Street widening project. I walk through this area every day along with many of my neighbors. I think the huge decisions that displace my neighbors and increase our exposure to pollutants should have more insight into long-term impacts.
The pesticides that are being spoken
So,
of, the source of those.
I wanted to ask a follow-up question to Carla, if that's okay, team. Carla? Let's see.
Carla is saying she doesn't have a microphone.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Hi,
it seems
Margarita.
like,
This
oh,
is-
hi.
So this is Carla, but this is not the same Carla that Ricardo's talking about. This is Carla Juarez.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, all right. So I think what Carla is talking about, because there have been some other concerns that have been raised before regarding the Warner project. And I think that's what she's alluding to. Like, what are the effects, right, of the demolition of some of the homes, what it's causing environmentally, in addition, otherwise. Let's see. Melanie, did you have a question?
Oh, I was
or-
just going to ask for clarification on the pesticides part of the
Okay.
comment, if there's any more information on that. The
Yeah,
source
so
of the pesticides.
that caught my attention to the spraying of the pesticides through the entire area. So Carla, not Carla Juarez, but the other Carla, the question is that something that you've seen from like vector control, or like who has been observed spraying the pesticides?
Margaritas, once we hear back from Carla, there is a question in the Q&A box.
Okay. Oh, I see that. So the question from Andres is, what will be done with our feedback? Will there be a follow-up? Melanie, did you want to touch on that?
Sure. We'll be organizing all the comments that come back, and we will be looking at our draft general plan to see if we need to add some more actions. So for instance, the pesticide, as an example, once we find a little bit more about what the root of that is, what the circumstance is, we could see what is an appropriate action for the city to take in those circumstances. Is it an educational program? Is it a certain practice that some government agency is doing that needs to be rethought? So we'll take your comments and we'll try and translate them into a policy or an action to bring to council for their consideration.
Thank
Is that
you.
helpful?
Thank you,
Hey, Mar-
Melanie. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Carla Vargas got back to us. She's saying she's not sure who they are from, but they wear orange vests and come to observe, and people in white suits come to spray all the homes and sides of the street.
Okay, well, we'll definitely check in on that with some of our city contacts and see what we can sort out about that. Thank you for responding.
Thank you. And that's the benefit of having these meetings, to be able to get examples like what Carla is sharing on what's happening and how that can definitely cause a reason for lots of concerns. Okay, so I'm going back to the hands raised, and I see Elaine Ariola. Go ahead, Elaine.
Hi, good evening. So I also had a community concern to raise. I live in the neighborhood of Delhi, and I was recently, out of courtesy of privacy for the other person, I can't really give too much information, but I have like enough information about certain corporations and like companies that work in the factories near the Orange and Adams neighborhood of Delhi. And I don't know the extent to which the city can interfere with this, but I have like sufficient reason to believe that those like that specific area of like factories and whatnot may be contributing to like bad environmental like concerns in regard to like soil and maybe even like pollutants, specifically like the industries like near the train tracks. So I don't know to the extent to which the city can actually like go in there and pry and like get information, but I know that, you know, workers are like trying to unionize there because of like really like bad legal concerns. And, you know, there's like good reason to believe that they may be contributing to like the environmental injustice issues happening in that neighborhood. So my concern is like, to what extent can the city interfere in like helping like these workers like kind of like expose what's really going on, because they're private companies. So like as residents, like we don't know what's going on. And that's like really my concern, because, you know, a lot of like low income residents live in that area, and you really like don't get a say or like in what happens next. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Elaine. Having worked with the Delhi neighborhood, and this goes years back, there were some factories in that area. One specific factory was like a kitchen grease recycling, you know, factory, where we had received complaints from the neighborhood, and it was about like it smelled like they put an odor to like something that smelled like rotten egg, and under really hot days, you know, parents couldn't let their kids play outside. Like that was the complaint. And so we actually worked with the Delhi Center, you know, staff and the neighborhood to pinpoint, because that's the challenge, pinpointing where the source, you know, is coming from, and going through the channels. In this case, it was an air quality complaint, to get the calls, right? The 6-7 calls within the hour to send an inspector out. And it did take a lot of work, just mobilizing the calls to get a response, and then to get a report from the AQMD after. So I don't know if it's something like this, or if it's a completely different type of business, but it's something definitely that, you know, we're interested in learning more on. And we understand, you know, your reasons why, you know, people want to remain anonymous. But Min, did you have any comments?
Yes, Elaine, thank you. And thank you, Margarita, for providing us with some of that background. So Elaine and everybody on the line, I just want to share with you that factories oftentimes have processes and materials that may or may not be regulated by state agencies, federal agencies, and county agencies. However, every business is regulated by the city in terms of land use and our local regulations on property maintenance, our local regulations on property nuisance issues. So, Elaine, if there are specific locations that you have concerns about, and you can point to a specific nuisance, it could be a smell, it could be noise, it could be, you know, you think there's illegal activities or non-permitted activities, we will be a good place to start, and we can investigate whether or not there's any issues relating to violation of local regulations. And if we find that there are additional concerns that impact other agencies, we can be the agent of getting that kind of concerns to those agencies as well. So, Elaine, if you have information that you would like to submit to us and locations, please feel free to do so. You can contact Margarita afterward if you don't feel comfortable sharing it in the chat, or contact any one of our staff online today. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, of
Thank you,
course.
Elaine.
And
I'll
just
definitely keep in touch.
to add to that too, your comments can be anonymous. It doesn't need to have your name with it if there's some concern about confidentiality. So again, there's that phone number at the end that you can reach any one of us.
Great, sounds good. I'll definitely keep in touch. And lastly and briefly, I did want to specifically mention that.
It's a little hard to hear you. Could you speak up just a little?
Yeah, I apologize for that. I did want to specifically state that I have like a conscious concern about like water quality, specifically in that general area of Delhi, because of like those concerns that have arisen. So I guess I will also be in contact about like whether we can provide like water quality testing for residents. I don't know if that's a possibility.
We've had some conversation with our public works water resources folks, and And they do some testing on certain cases, so we can definitely follow up with you on that as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Elaine.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anybody else who's on the call who wanted to share? I just saw a hand raised. Irvin. Go ahead, Irvin.
Yeah, sorry, am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Yeah, yeah. So first off, thank you for hosting this meeting. I understand that, it's the weird circumstances in that, I would prefer that we simply have an in-person meeting. I have attended city council meetings, the general ones over at the Civic Center, but yeah, I decided to phone in because of this. I guess you guys hosted some sort of event where you were doing COVID-19 testing the other day, and I was trying to air some of my concerns out to the clerk who was on the environmental justice tent. And just to comment on the person who said they suspected some sort of chemical usage. Yeah, I actually, let's see, the most practical advice I can give would be first and foremost, obviously, go to your company's, well, the employee could do an anonymous query, I guess, to their HR board, just for starters. My company, I won't disclose here where I am, but I live in the Memorial Park neighborhood and I work very closely. After that, I would say to reach out to your labor relations board or the local branch of OSHA. At their work, they are, required by state law. And I know this because at my work, by state law, we have to have all materials that we use on the material safety data sheets. I mean, most companies' trainings, they make you do the boring thing that we've all gone through, where they tell us some of the materials they're working on. Obviously, some of them have to be kept a secret for the sake of being a trade secret. But yeah, I would say before doing that, full disclosure, I say it for the simple reason that I am very much an opponent of companies unionizing, and I would like to first and foremost advise to first use the chain of command that's available before doing something like that, because I did write earlier that one of my concerns of the city is driving away business. So I would like to bring up some of the concerns that I have about your general plan, but for now, this is the most constructive advice I could give.
Okay. Thank you, Irvin.
Okay, you can mute me now.
Yes. And if there are specific details that you have regarding like what you've read so far in the general plan, that we welcome those comments. At the end, we'll be sharing a slide, as Melanie has mentioned, where people can continue to give their input in addition to completing the survey.
Sure.
Okay, do we have anyone else who wants to share? Let's see. We have a hand raised. Go ahead, Elaine.
Thank you. I just took the opportunity if nobody else was asking questions. I did have a specific question about I guess the kind of new general plan, because the last that I knew that there was going to be some modifications to the original plan that was postponed. Its adoption was postponed. And I was just wondering like whether there were any policy changes, because I had done previous reading of the current policies that were recommended on the original general plan. And I know that there were some that were saying that there would be air buffers. And I was just wondering if those policies are still there, because those, I personally subjectively don't believe that those were the best policies that could have been written up, but that's just my opinion. I was just wondering if there were
Elaine,
any
could you
additional-
speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Just like generally speaking, have there been modifications to the policies that were recommended in the original plan that was set to be adopted at all?
So, Elaine, we're precisely in the process of seeking the public input on environmental justice issues so that we can continue to work and refine all of the draft policy that were published in the document in last November. So there has not been any changes that's been made until we conclude this process, as we're evaluating whether or not anything that needs to be changed and what else new that can be come out that would need to be added to that list of policies. So there hasn't been any changes significantly to the list. We will do that at the end of this engagement process, and definitely will publish and provide information before for the document to be reviewed prior to go to Planning Commission and City Council as well. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to review anything that is in the final draft and before it gets adopted.
Okay.
And just to add to that as well, you mentioned something about the buffer. There is an action in there about looking at changing the requirements in industrial zones to have a certain distance requirement from residential or schools. So I wasn't quite sure if I caught your comment entirely, but I just wanted to make mention that that is in the draft that's online. And then when we do make the changes based on this outreach, we will be doing red line so that you can tell those changes that we've made.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine.
Ricardo, we have something on the chat. Do we have?
We had Andreas comment on the corner of South Parton and Warner. There's a sign that states no cars over 3 tons. I'm assuming that means larger automobiles like semi trucks cannot use that roadway. If so, may I suggest that an additional sign that states not for through traffic? I've seen those signs on streets that try to discourage outside traffic, meaning non-residents of that street. So I just let Andres know we would follow up and forward that suggestion recommendation over to our traffic division in the Public Works Agency to see if that type of signage is an option for that location that he's specifying.
Ricardo, if you can get also the contact information and forward it to Public Works and ask them to reach out and answer the questions, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
We have a hand raised.
I see that. Go ahead, Manny.
Okay, hey everyone. Sorry, I was
Hello, Manny.
Hello.
How you doing, Manny?
Pretty good. Oh, actually, it shows up in City of Oakland now. Okay, there it is. Yeah.
Wow. Wait, you're calling us from Oakland? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard that. Yeah, I'm working over here in Oakland now, so I moved over.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congrats.
Yeah,
but your roots are always in Santa Ana, we know.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, so that's I'm still calling in, but I was a little late to the meeting, so I'm not sure if that you all had already gone over any more of the recent kind of lead findings or any kind of insight as to what the city is looking to do on the remediation level. If that's already been answered, it's cool. I'll go back through the video when it's available to look at the earlier segments. But just wanted to make sure that that was part of the conversation. I just wasn't sure if that's been talked about yet.
So.
Go ahead.
Manny, the purpose of tonight's meeting is for us to listen to community concerns and comments on what is happening in the neighborhood and what folks are perspective is seeing that is affecting their environment and their quality of life. The issue of lead contamination obviously is a larger issue that impacts throughout the city, and we are looking at and working with different folks and groups to evaluate what are some of the impacts of lead in our community and how and what measures we are going to propose as part of the general plan update to address long-term mediation and mitigation of lead in our environment. So the answer to you is yes, but that's not really the purpose, at least for tonight. Our goal here is to listen and not necessary to provide any additional information other than we want to listen as requested by the Planning Commission for us to go out and reach out to the community and give the community a much greater opportunity to provide input on EJ issues.
Okay, well, in that case, I will add some input then, if that's okay.
Of course.
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. No, yeah. So yeah, lead is definitely for me at least. I guess I just want to make sure that we address as much preventable health harms as we can through this next general plan update. And I know we talk a lot about lead and kind of the history on lead there. And just for a little bit of background there, I have been working with some of the researchers on the lead contamination study and we're still kind of figuring out where things are there. But there's also just other heavy metal contaminants and just other exposure that's probably more based on industry rather than historic paint chips or historic lead and gas. So I think there's just like a variety of contaminants. So regardless of kind of how this all ends up, I really do wish that we can see some kind of more proactive testing at all levels, just to make sure that whatever we end up doing is very much rooted in scientific analysis of contaminants within the environment. And I think that goes down, from heavy lead, heavy metals, and that sort of thing, but then also lighter particulate matter and analysis of contaminants within the air. And the only way I think we're ever going to get to there is by investing in proactive testing kits, looking for air monitoring systems that the city itself or residents within the city actively engage with, and that we don't necessarily rely on what our current model is, which is, I believe, testing lead levels in children to see whether or not there's any lead contamination in the environment. So I think that we need to probably be a little bit more proactive overall with testing, because I think that those small investments and knowing kind of where the major problem areas are, it's probably the most cost-effective path forward. So I do appreciate the opportunity to speak on that, and look forward to seeing the next few versions of the product and how this whole thing ends up. And I know you all are working really hard on it, so appreciate that.
Thank you, Manny. And once upon a time, you were working on it as well. So congratulations on going to Oakland.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manny.
I wanted to call on Erika with the Delhi neighborhood. Erika, do you want to share some of your experience? Go ahead, Erika.
Hi, I'm sorry. Can you repeat?
Yes, we just wanted to hear more about the experience, you being in the Delhi neighborhood regarding the environmental justice priorities, air pollution, public facilities, healthy food, safe housing, parks, civic engagement.
Okay, so the whole shebang. I'm just kidding.
Well,
yeah, just kidding. No, I'm just playing. Yes, well, I know I've repeatedly have, asked for like more green space, because I know here in the Delhi neighborhood, we have a lot of industrial areas around us, specifically like the Cherry Aerospace. There's been a few issues with them regarding like the pollution that they're emitting into the air, as well as several other of the industrial companies surrounding us. And I know that the Madison neighborhood has begun, I want to say last year, or even further back than that. They began a nonprofit organization that is now surveying and reading the pollution that's in the air, which I am now a part of. I volunteered to have an air monitor installed in my home so that we can start monitoring the air quality that's in the neighborhood, because that is one area where we do lack a lot of even just information and research in general. So I do encourage and applaud the Madison neighborhood for taking that step and that initiative, and starting to survey the areas and finding out just how much pollution we do have in our area, because I live in an area right off of Main and Warner, and I am one of the hardest hit areas. I know one of my children personally have tested positive for lead because that is one of the concerns as well. Not only is our air pollution awful, but we also have tested for lead in our soil in our area. So there's many concerns. You know, the home that I live in, I grew up in this home. This is a home that I've lived in for over 30 years. A lot of the plants, the fruit trees that I have, you know, have some sort of like buildup and like mold or I'm not even sure what it is myself. So sometimes, you know, I question, you know, I've been consuming, I have a lemon tree, I have an avocado tree, I have a guayaba tree, and we consume these fruits and we consume these foods. So I question myself and I wonder myself, like, is there a correlation between these foods that I've grown in my own backyard? So that's something that I you know, weigh in on, and I really want the city to be conscious of when I talk about the green space and I talk about community gardens, because specifically on Warner, there is going to be a lot of open space available after the construction and the widening of the Warner project. And I know that we've had that discussion as to what's going to happen with that space once the construction is completed. So that's something that we're kind of keeping an eye on, and just trying to make sure that that space is going to be used for public, you know, what the public actually wants. Because a lot of the times in my experience, the results that are received through these surveys really don't represent what the actual community needs and wants, because there's a lack of connection and communication with the true community of Santa Ana, specifically the lower community immigrant areas, for many reasons, right? A lack of resources, there's a lack of, you know, internet connection, because, you know, even if we just saw the survey, a lot of the way that people found out about this very meeting was other, it wasn't even listed, right? And I think you mentioned text messages. So, you know, I applaud the city and the steps that they've been taking. But you know, one of the main reasons why we lack so much information is because of that lack of communication and that disconnection. So I would just, you know, my recommendations are always to get the boots on the ground, get people door knocking, and just doing what you've been doing, connecting with the neighborhood associations. I would really, personally, I would really like to see some sort of you know, representatives from each neighborhood specifically, just because there are so many neighborhoods in Santa Ana, neighborhood associations. I believe there's about 66 or 67, if I'm not mistaken. So having like specific, you know, these representatives and these people connecting with the smaller communities or within their specific communities, just so that we can get more representation, especially in the areas that are needed the most. And I would say that the homeless community, specifically right now, especially during the pandemic, are one of the hardest hit. I know myself, I've seen the homeless population grow tremendously in my neighborhood, and I would really love to see the city stepping up and creating more space for resources, especially mental health resources for these folks. I've recommended before, you know, creating maybe some sort of like internship or connection with the small businesses in the area. I'm also a small business owner. I have a tax office right off of Main Street. So I would always be open to, like, you know, working with the city. And like I've said, the city has been taking more steps in bridging that gap of communication. But I would just recommend getting more people on the ground, more boots on the ground, and getting folks door knocking and talking to people to really get an idea of what it is that the community needs, especially right now, and especially with all those funds that are coming in from the American, what was it, the COVID Relief Act or the
American Rescue.
right, So so that's what I would recommend, you know, assisting the homeless population, aiding in like funeral reimbursement expenses, because I know that that's one issue that I've seen over and over again in families when they've been hit with COVID, especially when families have been hit with multiple COVID deaths. So, you know, creating like space or creating some sort of grant or you know, funds for funeral reimbursement expenses. And then utility relief grants, you know, helping with the water bill, because I know, you know, the water bill, the light bill, the gas bill, I know those payments are frozen right now, but what's going to happen when they're unfrozen and, you know, people owe like hundreds and thousands of dollars. So creating, you know, funds for that as well, setting that aside. And
Thank you for those ideas.
Thank
And
you.
we'll be I see our staff taking notes. We'll be forwarding some of those ideas to our hotline on the American Rescue Plan, and they sound really great. And I think some of those may even be eligible for funding. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So I wanted to turn it back to Melanie.
Great.
And
Thanks, Margarita.
Mhm.
Are you there, Margarita?
Yes.
Okay, good. So thank you, and we appreciate everyone's comments. As Min mentioned, it's about listening, us trying to just listen. Having said that, we wanted to give just 2 examples of draft policies in our general plan that might resonate with you and address a little bit of what you've brought up. So this one, there's a lot of words on the screen here, but the bottom line is that the city, based on what we've heard from others, is looking at dedicating what we're calling an environmental quality webpage. And that would be where we would post information, be it information on where there's lead contamination identified, where there is air quality issues, where there's air quality permits that have been issued. And the idea is to have even an interagency team, not just planning, but maybe the fire department, maybe it's public works, and really have a group, a commitment by the city to track and monitor these things. And then most importantly, to be able to put that up on the website with this dedicated web page so that it's easily accessible to the public. As someone mentioned, their concern about water contamination. There's reports that are out and information that are out from the water district that we could put on the website so that you folks could access it easily, more readily, and find out more information. So for instance, there's the South Basin water contamination area or plume that's in your vicinity. We would make sure that that's easily accessible and capture that information. So that's one potential action. And the other one is a little bit similar. It's in our conservation element to monitor the air quality management district and also our Orange County Healthcare Agency. So a little bit of big acronyms there, but those are the 2 agencies that have the biggest role at the county and broader level that give permits for industry that has either hazardous materials or potential to pollute the air, and they monitor those and they have to get permits. So the city realizes that there's a need for us to coordinate with these organizations and kind of monitor them, if you will. So the idea would be that we would gather that information, or at least point you again to this information portal where everyone could have better access. We could all be better educated on the different things that aren't always the city's full purview or responsibility, but that we want to facilitate and be a liaison between what the residents are finding are issues and connect to those other organizations that are supposed to be monitoring that and protecting our community's health. So those are 2 examples that we just wanted to share. And again, anything that you would have suggestions to edit these concepts, or you like it, you don't like it, that's the kind of feedback we'd like to get from you. Are we on target? Will these things be helpful? How can we refine them? Again, these are potential actions that would go in the general plan and that council would look at to affirm and give staff direction on those things. So for each of our actions, we identify an agency in the city that would be the lead on it. And then we also identify a target year to complete that action. So the general plan, while it's big policy, it's also meant to be a recipe or a direction to actually get our goals accomplished. So, and just for bigger time frame, As was mentioned earlier, we'll be having these meetings and conducting the surveys through May. And with those comments, we'll go back and refine the actions and the policies in the spring. And then our intention is to go to Planning Commission, have a work study session open to the public. And then if all goes well, we would revise our environmental impact report that's required by summer, and then present the draft back to Commission and Council at the end of the year. That's the intention. And thanks again for the person that put the link to our survey up in the chat. You can find the survey on the website listed here. And you can always email us, give us a phone call. The surveys are in Spanish, English, and in Vietnamese. And as I think Ricardo mentioned, anyone that needs a hard copy, we can certainly get you a hard copy and coordinate for drop off or pick up those surveys. And we just really appreciate you taking the time tonight. And we will take back your comments and follow up as we can.
Melanie, if you wanted us to run that poll again of where people live, we could do that as well.
Sure, let's try it this time. Okay, so to close out, we're gonna close out on some clarity note. Do you want to drop down the survey?
Yes.
All right, so I'll just walk through this one then. So the survey, just to try it one more time, is where do you live? And again, if you're here from Delhi, then it's that second one. And so if anyone's here that's in Delhi, that's east of, what's the street? Does anybody know offhand? Standard? Then you would be in the EJ area. So 14 to 20 people have voted. So we have, interesting, we have about 20% of the folks, at least that are listing, that they're actually not in the city of Santa Ana, but they're interested in the topic. Another 33% that's outside of, in another Santa Ana neighborhood, like the woman from Artesia Pilar, potentially. And then it looks like we've got 27% from Delhi and 20% from Memorial Park. So again, we're reaching out to the actual neighborhoods to get 2 or 3 neighborhoods at a time to get your experiences in these exact areas. But anyone, of course, is always welcome to participate. Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melanie. And again, thank you everyone for joining us at tonight's meeting. I know it's a Monday afternoon and Monday evening, but it shows us that this issue is really important to you. So therefore, I thank you. I also want to thank our mayor, as well as Council Member Becerra and Council Member Jesse Lopez for joining us tonight. And before I leave you for tonight, I just want to really say thank you so much for participating. This is not the only opportunity you'll have to provide comments. If you think of any more comments or would like to participate in future meeting, we still have about 8 more of these meetings scheduled through May. So you're welcome to join us, but we are going to different neighborhoods and focusing in on each neighborhood like we did tonight. We also have the survey. Please fill out the survey. It has an opportunity for you to provide comments, written comments as well, and those will be valuable. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much, and I bid everyone a good night and be healthy. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye, Manny. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.